I have found 100% clear evidence that the Earth is not a sphere and checked what a flat Earth looked like. Now, these two pictures are clear proofs that the Earth is not a sphere. The building in the picture is the German Antarctic base, Neumayer Station. It was built in 2009 at 70 degrees south latitude and 8 degrees west longitude. Why would these two pictures be clear evidence that the Earth is not a sphere? As you can see, the Neumayer was built on an ice wall facing the sea. If Antarctica is not an ice wall, but a really huge continent, then the seaside will definitely be north, right? But we don't know exactly where the north side is because the sea is so vast. But in this photo, you can identify where the north side is. This is right north. A detailed explanation will be given later. See the shadows. It was formed in the south. So, the sun was passing through the north at this time. Now, look at another picture. Can you see the thin ice over the base? That side is the sea, that is, the north. So the south would be the other side, right? Look at the shadows. Does it hang to the north? So, the sun is passing through the southern sky at this time. What the hell could this be? How can this be a clear evidence that the Earth could never be a sphere? In the spherical Earth around the winter solstice, in Antarctica, the sun does not set all day. The midnight sun phenomenon occurs, right? The sun rotates 360 degrees over the horizon, east, north, west and south all day long. But how does this prove that the Earth is flat? The reason this photo proves that the Earth is not round is the elevation angle of the sun in both photos. In the first picture, the sun's altitude is measured at 42 degrees. However, according to the Astrophysics, the highest elevation angle of the sun at 70 degrees south latitude at the winter solstice is 43.4 degrees. At 12 noon, the sun will pass an altitude of 43.4 degrees north. We'll go into more detail about this a little later. By the way, the elevation angle of the sun in the picture is 42 degrees, so it means that the sun was almost passing north at this time, right? In other words, this picture was taken just before or after 12 o'clock noon around the winter solstice. Since the sun passed north at 12 noon, it would pass south at 12 midnight. Then the sun's elevation angle should be only 3.4 degrees. It's almost at the altitude just before sunset. Just before sunset, the brightness of the atmosphere is only this level. By the way, the sunlight in this photo is very bright. The shadows are also clear. It is completely different from the brightness of the atmosphere in the photo at sunset. Look at the length of the shadow lying towards the sea. Very, very short, right? It is difficult to measure the elevation angle of the sun through the shadow because the composition is opposite, but the length of the shadow seems to be shorter than the previous photo. The elevation angle of sun is probably above 40 degrees. However, according to astrophysics, the highest altitude of the southern sun at 70 degrees south latitude is only 3.4 degrees. Therefore, the sun elevation angle proves that the Earth is not a sphere. The debate over whether the Earth is round or a flat is no longer meaningful. The sphere-Earth theory was finally declared dead. Also, the Gleason-style flat Earth maps are to be ripped out. Those are just Jesuit's works to cover up the existence of the outside world beyond the ice wall. Okay, so I'll start with a detailed explanation from now on. In order for you to understand what I just said, you must first understand the midnight sun in globe Earth. Since there are many people living in the northern hemisphere, I will first explain the northern hemisphere midnight sun phenomenon. Well, here is the Earth. The image on the left shows the Earth as seen from the sun during the summer solstice. The sun is here. At the summer solstice, the Earth's north pole is tilted 23.4 degrees toward the sun. So the equator curves to the south like this, and the North Pole also moves south. This green circle is 66.6 degrees north latitude where the white night appears. If you look at it from the right side of the Earth, it will look like this. The sun is located to the right of the Earth. The line connecting the centers of the Earth and the sun is the plane of the ecliptic, and it is also the actual equator of the Earth during the summer solstice. If you draw a vertical line that meets the ecliptic at the center of the Earth, this will be the day and night boundary. The right side facing the sun is in daytime, and the left side is in night. The 66.6 degree north latitude area rotates like this in this state, so it will only move to the daytime area. That is why the white night, in which the sun does not set for 24 hours, appears. Then, what is the highest altitude of the sun at 66.6 degrees north latitude during the summer solstice? At 12 noon, we stand up and look at the sun. Which one is south? Is it the equator? So the northern hemisphere sun will pass through the southern sky. How is the horizon formed at this time? Our actual latitude is 43.2 degrees north latitude. This is because the 66.6 line has moved down 23.4 degrees to south due to the tilt of the axis of rotation. 66.6 minus 23.4 is 43.2 degrees, right? The line perpendicular to the 43.2 degree line will be our horizon. But angle A and angle B are the same 43.2 degrees. Then the remaining angle will be 46.8 degrees. This is the highest southing altitude of the sun at 66.6 degrees north latitude when it's summer solstice. So what is the sun's highest northing altitude at 12 p.m.? At 12 noon, we were standing facing the south, so if we rotate in this state, we will stand like this at 12 night. In the northern hemisphere, the south is on the equator, so this will be the south. Because the North Pole is behind us. On which side does the sun rise? Floating on our backs. So to see the sun, we have to turn back like this. So at 12 o'clock at night, the sun will be half determined by the northern horizon. The sun's highest northing elevation angle is 0 degrees. So in the summer solstice at 66.6 degrees north latitude, the sun passes 46.8 degrees in the southern sky at 12 noon, and just above the northern sky horizon at 12 night. And what is the sun's elevation angle between noon and midnight? It would be 23.4 degrees, halfway between 0 degrees and 46.8 degrees. Then, at 6 a.m. when the sun passes east and 6 p.m. when it passes west, the sun's elevation angle is 23.4 degrees. That is, at the summer solstice, the sun in the region of 66.6 degrees north latitude, just above the northern horizon at 12 o'clock p.m., gradually rises up to the east, and when 6 a.m., it reach at 23.4 degrees above the eastern sky, and at noon reach above the southern sky at 46.8 degrees. After then it gradually lowers, passing 23.4 degrees in the western sky at 6 p.m. and returns just above the northern horizon at 12 p.m. That's why there are white nights where the sun doesn't disappear all day. At this time, in areas above 66.6 degrees south latitude, black nights where the sun does not rise all day will develop. This is because it only rotates in the night area. However, during the winter solstice, white nights will appear in areas above 66.6 degrees south latitude and in 66.6 degrees north latitude. The black nights develop because the Earth rotates like this in this state. During the summer solstice, the North Pole faces the sun, but during the winter solstice the South Pole faces the sun. When viewed from above the North Pole, the Earth rotates counterclockwise. Conversely, looking up from the South Pole, it rotates clockwise. It'll be like this at 6 in the morning. Which side is the sun on at this time? It must be 90 degrees to my right. In the northern hemisphere the sun was on my left, right. This causes the northern and southern hemispheres to change directions. In the northern hemisphere, east is left, west is right. In the southern hemisphere, east is right and west is left. It's not just east-west. North and south also change. So in the northern hemisphere the sun passes through the southern sky, but in the southern hemisphere the sun passes through the northern sky. This is the most confusing part. That the direction changes. Please be careful not to make any mistakes or misunderstandings in this section. What is the sun's elevation angle at 70 degrees south latitude, which is 3.4 degrees higher than 66.6 degrees S latitude? At Neumayer Station, the sun will rise 3.4 degrees above the southern horizon at 12 p.m. After that, it gradually ascends to the southeast, reaching at 23.4 degrees east at 6 a.m. and 43.4 degrees north at 12 noon, and then slowly lowers. It passes 23.4 degrees in the western sky at 6 p.m., and then returns to 3.4 degrees above the southern horizon at 12 p.m. In short, the sun's elevation angle is 90 minus the actual latitude of the observer. At the actual highest latitude of 70 degrees south, latitude is 86.6 degrees and sun's altitude at this time is 90 minus 86.6, or 3.4 degrees. And the actual lowest latitude of it is 46.6 degrees, so the sun's altitude is 90 minus 46.6, or 43.4 degrees. If you just remember this, you don't have to draw the Earth, add a person to it, draw the horizon, and then calculate the angle to get the sun's elevation angle. The sun's elevation angle is 90 minus actual latitude. If you remember this, you can easily calculate the sun's elevation angle. Anyway, we've got some very important information. During the winter solstice, the sun at the Neumeier at 12 noon reaches its highest altitude of 43.2 degrees in the northern sky, and at 12 o'clock at night it reaches its lowest altitude at 3.4 degrees above the southern horizon. Then the sky over Neumeier will be bright all day, except around 12 p.m. Since the sun is still 3.4 degrees above the southern horizon even before or after 12 p.m., the brightness of the atmosphere must be at least this level. But is this possible? How can the altitude of the sun passing through the southern sky be more than 40 degrees? If you mark the bearings on these two pictures, it will look like this. But in the sphere-Earth theory, how does the sun rotate at 70 degrees south latitude during the winter solstice? This red circle is the rotational orbit of the sun. It rotates counterclockwise like this along the yellow arrow. At 6 a.m. Sunday passes 23.4 degrees above the eastern sky. At 12 noon, 43.2 degrees in the north sky. At 6 p.m., 23.4 degrees in the west sky, and at 12 p.m., 3.4 above the southern horizon. If the Earth is really a spinning globe, then it must be. So, this picture is confessing that the Earth is never a sphere. But on a flat Earth this is possible. Now, this is the most popular Gleason-style flat map among flat earthers. Assuming the Earth's diameter is 40,000 kilometers, the distance from the North Pole to the equator is 10,000 kilometers, and from the equator to the edge of the Antarctic ice wall is 10,000 kilometers. Besides, the visible range of the sun is 10,000 kilometers. So during the vernal and autumn equinoxes, when the sun rotates above the equator, we can only see the sun inside this blue circle. If we see the sun outside the sky blue circle, it will sink below the horizon because of perspective. What happens during the summer solstice when the sun orbits 23.4 degrees north latitude? The Arctic Circle, that is, the area above 66.6 degrees north latitude, will be included in the blue circle. In this state, the sun rotates clockwise, so in the Arctic Circle, the sun does not set all day. And from 66.5 degrees to 50 degrees north latitude, we can't see the sun, but we can see the sunlight because the twilight is 18 degrees. There are three types of twilight: citizen twilight, nautical twilight, and astronomical twilight, each of which is 6 degrees for a total of 18 degrees. The Satan's number 666 also appears here, right? The spherical Earth theory was created based on 666. That's why I refer to less than spherical Earth theory greater than as less than the Satan's sutra greater than. The tilt of the Earth's axis of rotation, the speed of the Earth's orbit, the curvature of the Earth, the diameter of the Moon and the Sun are all made up of Satan's numbers. After all, when we experience the midnight sun in the Arctic Circle, what will happen to the Antarctic Circle? Areas above 66.6 degrees south latitude will experience black night where the sun does not rise. If the Earth were a sphere, it must be. During the winter solstice, when the sun orbits 23.4 degrees south latitude, the sun will not rise in the Arctic Circle. On the other hand, in Antarctica, the sun does rise, but only between 3 and 5 hours at best. There can never be midnight sun in Antarctica. Now, the lines extending in all directions from the North Pole are the longitude lines at 15-degree intervals. 15 degrees is the angle the sun rotates in 1 hour. Considering that this is 66.6 degrees, there are fewer than 5 longitude lines in the light blue circle. In other words, the interval between sunrise and sunset is less than 5 hours. And 90 degrees south latitude, or the end of the ice wall, will be around 3 hours and 20 minutes. But if you include the twilight, it will add up to an hour. In the northern hemisphere, the angle of twilight is 18 degrees greater than 15 degrees, which the sun's angle of rotation in 1 hour, but in the southern hemisphere it should not be counted in degrees. In that case, the flat Earth theory cannot be established because the actual distance in the southern hemisphere is reduced almost by half. And in the end, flat Earth map is nothing more than an unfolded globe map. So, in the southern hemisphere, twilight should be calculated as the distance applied from the northern hemisphere, not the angle. In the northern hemisphere, the distance of twilight is 2,000 kilometers. Since 90 degrees equals 10,000 kilometers, 18 degrees equals 2,000 kilometers. As such, Gleason map have inherently fatal contradictions. Aside from the problem of the different angles of twilight in the northern and southern hemispheres, the sun's visible distance diameter is only 20,000 kilometers from east to west, so it cannot brighten half of the Earth, which has a diameter of 40,000 kilometers. For example, in Ushuaia, located at 55 degrees south latitude, there is only 5 hours of daylight during the winter solstice on the Gleason map. But in reality, it's over 17 hours. It's 3.5 times longer than the Gleason map. Without resolving these contradictions, the flat Earth theory cannot be recognized for its existence by people. So some people have their opinions about these problems, but those don't work. For this reason, I have been paying attention to Kobayashi's flat Earth maps, which has countless continents outside the ice wall, for a long time. Now, this is a flat Earth map of Kobayashi introduced by Hawaiian Gazette in 1907. Kobayashi claimed that the original found in a Chinese temple 1,000 years ago could not be released because it had been destroyed over so many years, so instead of it he published this map restored by his brother. In the center is Gleason-style realm, and many continents are spread out outside the ice wall. I edited it. I will name the central part, which the world we live in, inner world, and the worlds outside the ice wall, outer worlds. The blue dot is Ushuaia. The 6 red circles surrounding the inner world are the orbits of the suns of the outer worlds. The outer suns rotate clockwise, just like the inner sun. The yellow-green circle is the visible range of the sunlight, not the sun, with a diameter of 12,000 kilometers. Now, first of all, the sun of outer world number 1 illuminates Ushuaia. The sky to the south-southeast of Ushuaia will gradually brighten as the sun approaches here. And an hour later, the sun rises over the horizon between south-southeast and southeast. Does the morning begin in Ushuaia? And when the sun goes through here, the sunset will start from almost east. But just before the sun of the first outer world sets, the inner sun rises above the east-northeast horizon. 2 suns coexisting at the same time just above the horizon just a little further away. Exactly like this. You may have seen photos or videos of 2 suns coexisting. For this, they say that sun is not only one because the Jesuits set many artificial suns. You're wrong. There are several suns. But those are by no means artificial suns but all real suns. There is no doubt that the Jesuits are more than 50 years ahead of the scientific technology that has spread to us today. However, they did not have the technology enough to create a fake sun that is almost similar to the real sun, as well as the technology to make it rotate orbit by producing free infinite energy on its own. We must not sublimate the Jesuits, who have reduced this world to hell, on the same level as the Creator who created this beautiful world. Jesuits only do profit and loss calculations, they have no brain to find out why their lies are contradictory. How can those pinheads create orbiting artificial suns with free infinite energy? You must never sublimate the Jesuits, who reduced this world to hell, to the same level as the Creator who created this world. You need to know your enemy's ability to devise a winning strategy. Muon and Higgs particle, astronauts spacewalk, space rockets swing by, space ladder, particle accelerator, artificial sun. Those are all from science fictions. So, never believe the claims of astrophysicists. If you really want to have eyes to see the truth, you should. There are several suns in this whole world, but only two can appear above the horizon at the same time. It is only when the sun of the inner world rises at the same time that the sun of the first outer world sets and inner sun sets at the same time the second outer sun rises. In this way the sun of the inner world and the suns of the six outer worlds intersect each other. Since two suns are on the horizon at the same time, doesn't it get too dark around sunset? Will it remain as brightness as when heavy rains at noon? But why isn't the situation where two suns coexist every day? That's natural. The coexisting of the two suns is clear evidence that unknown worlds exist outside of ice wall, and it is clear proof that the earth is flat. So what should the Jesuits do? They must hide a single sun by creating fake clouds with chemtrails. However, sometimes unpredictable natural disasters occur. They sprayed a lot of chemtrails to cover the sun, but suddenly a strong wind blew up and threw them all away. That's why sometimes extraordinary situations like this happen. The most important reason why the US military spends a huge amount of defense budget for stationed troops around the world is to make fake ISS imitations with U-2 spy planes and to make people sick with chemtrails. Additionally, to create global warming fraud, they even build domes in the sky with chemtrails to keep reflected light and heat from escaping. In particular, the major mission of US troops stationed at high latitudes in the southern hemisphere is to hide the one sun of two. These days, hologram technology has advanced so much that it can dazzle everyone, so they are doing it in addition to chemtrails and artificial rainfall. But one day, the hologram machine suddenly breaks down because mechanical parts don't work forever. Then we can see two suns. I will continue the explanation. When the sun passes here, it will reach its highest altitude in the northern sky and then set west-northwest. At that moment, the second outer sun rises over the western horizon. And for a few hours it travels and sets south-southwest. In the southern hemisphere, three suns rotate together like cog wheels, so the daytime at the winter solstice becomes longer. But it is by no means midnight sun. Because it is not a single sun rotating east, north, west and south in 24 hours. Even at 90 degrees south latitude during the winter solstice, night comes for several hours after the three suns have set. Now, this one picture clearly proves that the Earth is flat, not round. So, the debate about whether the Earth is round or flat is meaningless anymore. Now, let's stop arguing for no use at all. And throw the flat Earth maps and wall clocks depicting only the inner world in the trash. Not only the globe, but it was also manipulated by the Jesuits to hide the outer worlds.